Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Greater Hartford and WHC-TV candidate debate for Town Council. We are pleased to be able to bring you this nonpartisan voter service for the 2013 election with the cooperation of the respective parties. I am Deb Poland of the League of Women Voters of Greater Hartford, and I will serve as moderator of this debate. The debate will be conducted in a modified cumulative time format. This format is designed to enable candidates to freely elaborate on their approaches to a variety of issues, unimpeded by the strict time constraints of more traditional debate formats. Each candidate will have a total of 10 minutes of response time during the debate. When speaking, each candidate is timed by his own League of Women Voters timekeeper. Periodically, the timekeepers hold up signs indicating the time remaining for each candidate. Candidates are encouraged to rebut and surrebut, responding to their differences as they perceive them, understanding that the clock is running. Each candidate has 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order of precedence for speaking was determined by lottery. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the candidates who have committed their time and energies to this most important aspect of the democratic process, running for elective office. First this evening, we have Chris Barnes. Chris and his wife Stephanie have lived in West Hartford for 17 years and have 3 daughters. Chris is an attorney and has been in practice for 18 years. He is currently a partner with the law firm of Reardon, Scandon, Vadola in West Hartford. Chris has coached girls youth lacrosse, served on the town's risk management advisory board, and volunteered for and supported a number of local charities in town. He received his undergraduate degree from the University of Colorado at Boulder, a law degree from Quinnipiac University School of Law, and a master's in law degree from the University of Connecticut School of Law. Good evening, Chris.
Thank you, Deb.
We also have Harry Captin. Harry was elected to Town Council in 2011. He currently chairs the Public Safety Committee and sits on the Finance and Budget Committees. Harry served 8 years on the Board of Education. He is married to Heather for the last 24 years, and they have 3 children, Jeffrey, Matthew, and Katie. A certified public accountant, Harry is a second vice president at the Travelers in corporate procurement. Harry has an MS in professional accounting from the University of Hartford and a BS in business administration from Western New England University. Harry is a justice of the peace and a member of the Church of St. Timothy, where he serves as a lector. Welcome.
Good evening, Deb.
We also have Shari Cantor. Shari is currently deputy mayor and has served as a town councilor since 2004. Shari is a lifetime resident of West Hartford and graduate of Hall High School. She earned her accounting degree from UConn and worked in public and private accounting. She chairs the Finance and Budget Committee, serves on Human and Leisure Services Committee, is liaison to the Foundation for West Hartford Public Schools and Senior Citizen Advisory Commission. She serves as a UConn trustee, Jewish Federation board member, and other nonprofit boards. Shari has been married to Michael Cantor for 28 years, is a daughter to senior parents in West Hartford, and the mother of 4 sons, knowing firsthand the importance of successful schools and quality of life issues for seniors. She values all members of our special, unique, diverse, and vibrant community. Shari listens with an open heart and mind and governs with common sense and a vision for the future. Welcome. And finally, we have Ted Pease. Ted is a lifelong resident of West Hartford and currently lives in town with his wife Heather and daughter Faith. As a full-time small business owner, he attended the University of Connecticut at night to earn a business degree. He is presently employed with one of the largest insurance companies in Hartford as an analyst. Ted also serves on the Board of Assessment Appeals. He feels that if elected to Town Council, he will bring leadership and business skills to the position. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you.
Welcome to everybody. And we're going to get started tonight with some questions about our town budget. Probably not too much of a surprise, and we're going to start off with Chris. Given fiscal problems at the federal and state levels, West Hartford is vulnerable to cuts. What do you feel would be the right solution if that happens? Is it revenue increases, spending cuts, and if both, in what combination?
Thank you, Deb. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to you for moderating tonight, and also thank you to West Hartford Community Television for having us here this evening. And thank you for the first question. That is it's a critical issue facing the town. The state and federal governments both have historic debt levels and they also have recently been borrowing money to pay their bills. So I think there is a very real concern that some intergovernment monies that are due to the town, either from the state or from the federal government, we ultimately may not receive it. So I think we need to be prepared to either take a cut in the money that we're entitled to, or make other arrangements. So to answer your question about what I would propose, I think it's a false choice. I don't think we need to necessarily raise taxes or cut programs or services. I think we can accomplish both. Unfortunately, under the town council, we've experienced just the opposite. We've had higher taxes and we've had programs cut. My proposal would be that we, under conservative fiscal stewardship, would be able to hold the line on taxes and also keep all of our key programs in place.
Do either of you feel you'd like to respond?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
About 9% of the town's budget is actually funded by the state and federal governments. So actually in West Hartford, we've been trying to manage ourselves, since 85% of our budget is paid for by our townspeople in property taxes. So what we've done is always plan for the worst and be prepared for when additional funds come in. We've been lucky in the last couple of years that the current administration, the Malloy administration, has kept funding level for municipalities, and we've been able to keep our taxes low. In fact, the last increase that we've had in expenses was a 1.5% increase, and that was a unanimous budget voted on by both Democrats and Republicans. And I would question Mr. Barnes on what services have been canceled, because in the last 2 years under the current people who have been serving, actually no services have been reduced. So I'm trying to imagine where you might be going with that.
Well, leave service pickup has been cut. Bulk pickup from the curb has been cut. Now we have to pay a fee for that type of service. So those are two examples of services that we've lost.
Well, one of the things about leaf pickup, and actually the cuts you're referring to, happened some years ago. And leaf pickup
under a Democratic town council.
This is very true, and this is a way that we're trying to keep taxes down, because the services of leaf pickup are incredibly expensive when it was at curbside, and the planning for when the leaves would fall didn't match with our contracted terms. So when the contractor came by to vacuum the leaves, they were actually still on the trees, and we would have to pay more money for the second and third runs through the town. So the way we've managed that is that when the leaves come down, we have plenty of time for people to bag their own leaves and have them picked up timely, as well as keeping the town looking good and having things picked up when people are ready to have them picked up.
Well, two comments to that. The additional expense of having those leaves picked up or bagging them yourselves is a couple $100 for most town residents to have that done. So that's just an additional tax. And the low taxes that you refer to, during what we've experienced as the Great Recession, the biggest recession since the Great Depression, over the last 5 years, our property taxes have gone up over $46 million. So when the town council and our mayor refers to that as a maintenance budget, when we average $7 to $8 million of property tax increases each year, to me, that is not a maintenance budget. And if that is the maintenance budget, I am very concerned about what our budgets will look like when we actually spend money.
Shari, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I was on the council when leaf pickup and some of the programs that you're saying change. 10 years is a long time. 10 years ago, we did not have Facebook, Twitter, many things. Our world is different. We didn't have Newtown. We didn't have the 2001 and 2008 financial crisis, or we had the 2001 crisis. We were in a very different place. We were coming off of double-digit interest rates in the 90s, and we're hit with two really big financial catastrophes, truly. And maybe we're headed for another one now, I don't know. But we have managed the town preserving services at every level, while efficiencies have been, we've really practiced incredible efficiencies. The Board of Education and the town co-located. We knew that there was going to be some energy from that. Every single position has been combined, and there is one person performing 2 duties for each of those. We met with our accountants, and they said no town in the state of Connecticut is doing that. The largest CPA firm that represents municipalities in the state of Connecticut. No other municipality is doing that. We have, the leaf pickup was a complicated issue because there is one vendor that was doing it. It is energy, horrible for our environment. The Public Works Department was complaining about snow falling after the leaves were sitting on the ground. It became a safety issue. And it really was a unique situation where we really had to make a change quickly because nobody was doing it anymore, or it was such an exorbitant price that your taxes would have gone up well beyond the $200, $300 that it costs an individual homeowner. But we have worked very hard to provide excellent schools, incredible quality of life, safe town, and preserve our tax base. We are on our own. When you say, what would you do? We have been seeing this. We've been seeing cuts over the last 10 years, dramatic cuts. So we've really tried to balance, and that is what this is all about. It's about balance.
Ted, I feel that you're itching to get in.
Well, it strikes me that Shari being head of the Finance and Budget Committee, are you aware of a financial catastrophe that the viewer at home is not aware of? Can you elaborate on financial catastrophes? Is it the $300 million in unfunded pension liabilities? Is that
I'm
catastrophe?
I'm happy to address the pension issue at another. I'm happy to talk about it.
Well,
But let's.
can you elaborate on the financial
2001 and
disaster that you alluded to?
Okay, the 2008 our financial.
I'm talking about the town. Is there a town catastrophe about to happen
We're facing
financially?
challenges. We are not facing a catastrophe.
You said it. I'm just using your words.
I'm saying
so I
a
wanna
global financial
Okay,
catastrophe.
so there's
in
no
2008
town-
and 1.
Financial catastrophe
No,
that
there's
you're
not.
aware of. So the pension liabilities of $300 million wouldn't be that.
No, it is not that. It took us many, many, many decades to get to this point.
Okay, and the decades would be of democratically controlled councils, is that correct?
Actually,
So-
let's stay on the
Yeah,
pensions
let-
when we get to a pension
Yeah,
question.
I'm happy to have that discussion with you
She
on
brought
pension.
up financial catastrophes.
And I'm saying I was
I'm
referring to
concerned
global
because the head of the
catastrophes.
financial, of the budget committee has said that.
I
So-
think Mrs. Cantor was
I
referring to
clarified
that.
that those were global catastrophes in 2001 and 2008, according to economists.
And does that impact us as a
Of
town?
course it does, and that
Well,
was
can
one
you
of the
elaborate on
reactions.
that?
I think it's your time to speak, so I'm happy to rebut anything
I'm
that you
speaking,
say.
I'm asking questions. I'm here as a concerned citizen of West Hartford, and I'm speaking to the head of the Finance and Budget Committee, and you alluded to the fact that there was a financial catastrophe that was on the horizon. I want to know what it is.
No, I
and
didn't
does it
say-
pertain to anything that
I
is
didn't say it
happening
was
within
on the
the town?
horizon. I said we've experienced. In 2001, I think you know what happened with 9/11, what happened with the financial markets. And in 2008, we had a financial crisis in our country where the markets dropped precipitously over 50%, and we lost asset value across the board, and interest rates became non-existent. And those are the
Interesting.
challenges that every municipality is facing.
Interesting.
Well, let's jump ahead to the pension
Thank you.
question that seems to be on your mind. And did you want to talk a little bit about our pension liabilities?
I think they're staggering, and I think that they really represent a major concern for future generations of people that want to live in West Hartford. And I don't know what the council has been doing about it. And, I'm here for answers. And if I get on the council, you can be sure that I'm going to find out what the answers are.
All right. And did you
Okay,
wanna
I'm
address
happy to
those?
respond. I go to every pension board meeting, and I have been at every rating agency meeting, and I've talked to actuaries, we've done asset and liability studies. I'm happy to talk about that. My dad is 87 years old. He is a World War II veteran, the Army of Occupation. He still receives a pension from the company that he worked at. Nobody projected when those contracts were made in municipal government that those people would still remain on the plan that they had signed at the time before any of us were born. Those obligations that we have to those elderly people that have lived much longer than anybody anticipated it's our obligation. 62% of our pension liability are people that are already retired, that were contracts that were reached well before we had anything to do with them. While I've been on the council, we have increased the contributions 400%. We have increased our retirement age by 5-10 years in many instances. Public safety is always a challenge. We go to arbitration. We always push back on it, and we have made progress. We still have a long way to go. We have a line. We do a defined contribution, defined pension benefit now for all of our board of ed employees, and we are working on that on the town side. And the defined contribution plan, to go immediately to a defined contribution plan, we actually have advised against that because you have less assets going into the fund itself. So yes, we have challenges. There is no question. It took us decades to get here. It will take us decades to get out. We have we have presented our plan and strategy to Moody's and Standard & Poor's. They've endorsed it and said we are stable and we have the ability to pay. And they use a different matrix. They use a matrix of percentage of revenue, and they said that we are well within a normal range for that. So.
Krista, do you want to jump in on this question?
Sure, I'll jump in on this question. Thank you. Well, let's just put some numbers on the table. We're looking at currently $190 million unfunded pension obligation. We're looking at approximately $107 million on the healthcare side as well. We make contributions currently of approximately $17 million a year, which will increase to $22 million a year in the next couple of years. The obligation, the payments that we're making out on an annual basis exceed the money that we're putting in. So the money we're putting in the short term is only increasing the amount of the unfunded liability for these obligations. And in fact, on the healthcare side, my understanding is we're not even making the annual required contribution for the healthcare claims. We're paying some of it, but we're not making a full ARC contribution for the healthcare claims. So as Mr. Pease stated, we're looking at approximately $300 million of unfunded liabilities. And I understand that the people that are entitled to those monies, have names and, worked, and we have an obligation. We've made a promise to pay those obligations. But the fact of the matter is, over the last 10 years, the contracts under which these obligations have been created, particularly on a going forward basis, had to have been looked at and more favorable terms negotiated to cut off this liability in the future, because as it extends out into the future, it's unsustainable. It's not a problem that we can tax our way out of. There's not enough money in this town to do that. And so we're going to have to come up with other ways to solve that problem, because that problem alone is going to have a substantial impact on the quality of life that we enjoy here in town. And in fact, I think it already does.
Harry, last word on this, and then we're going to jump to a new question.
Again, keeping it very simple, 62% of this liability is by people who are already retired and people whose contracts are no longer renegotiated, and liabilities that we owe these former workers of the town. They are living longer, and that is adding to the liability. 38% are newer employees, and of those 38%, every single contract we have opened up and we have gotten better terms on. We have increased the age that you can retire. We have increased the contribution that people actually put into the fund. We have actually eliminated spiking on the police department. We are in the midst of, we've been trying to negotiate with the fire department, and collectively there's no one issue that has brought together both Republicans and Democrats, and that is the firefighters' contract, and we are going to arbitration because we can't get what we need as a town. We are addressing this problem. We are funding as the actuaries require us to fund. We've been doing it for 10 years. We are the first group, actually for 12 years, since 2001, and for 10 years prior to that, it wasn't funded at zero. 12 years, it wasn't funded at all, zero. We were elected, we picked up the ball, we started addressing this liability in 2001, and Standard & Poor's says that we are stable and that we're addressing our pension problems. An independent firm, to me, is more important than politicians lobbing the same ball and the same problem to each other when we know we're addressing the issue. Thank you.
All right. I think we'd like to move on to a new question. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the busway, or now called CT Fast Track. And a few years ago, there was a lot of debate about whether people supported the fast track. But now that it is here, I'm wondering what your ideas are on how West Hartford can maximize its potential value. So who wants to kick off with that question?
I'd like to start off by saying that I'm a strong believer in public transportation. I actually take the bus to work on numerous occasions. I also have tried to ride my bike to work. But for the busway, I think that the fact that the town was not so much on board with the project pretty much put us behind the 8 ball when it comes to redeveloping all along the line. And I think that we've kind of missed the boat, or we're now behind the 8 ball because we don't have a plan set forth by the council that really lays out so that the residents can see what we want to do to develop businesses along the line.
Well, I'm going to just ask you a follow-up before we kick it off to the conversation, but if you could just be specific about some of your ideas for maximizing the potential, I'm sure the viewers would appreciate it.
I think that if we utilize both private and public money, maybe through grants, and develop businesses that are high-tech and have them stationed throughout the line, which would be an economic growth to the town of West Hartford, I think that could be a very good economic boom for our town.
Great. Does anyone else want to jump in on this one?
I think transportation hubs are extremely important. I have 2 children that live in Boston, use the T all the time. This is an important issue of our generation. I also am a huge public transportation supporter. I would love to see a fast train to New York or Boston. I think it would really develop our economic, it would really strengthen our economic opportunities in West Hartford. We have thought about it. We have planned for it. We need to do more. We actually need to see what the state actually is, some of the conditions that the state is leaving, will leave us in when this project is done. But this will be a center of business. We will try to make it as pedestrian and bicycle friendly as possible, multimodal. We will use it. I think it has some great synergy with some of the development going on in Elmwood. We have the Goodwin coming. Obviously, we have some exciting new restaurants, and hopefully a variety of living experiences there. And we're really excited for now to seize on it and excited for the opportunities that's going to create in that thriving area in town.
Harry or Chris?
Sure.
Jump in.
I wasn't in favor of the busway project. It's a project that, costs a lot of money. It's not going to have from what I've read, have the ridership and raise the revenue to pay for the cost of maintaining it. It wasn't clear to me that it was something that we even needed. We have a bus mass transit system already in place that is not fully utilized. So now that it's here, what do we do with it? We make the best of it. If we can develop a business commercial center around the 2 stops that are in West Hartford, I think that would be a great thing, be able to bring in people to service those businesses that either live out on the Hartford side of the line or the New Britain side of the line. I think we can make the best of it. In the end, I don't think it was money well spent, though.
All right. And Harry?
I would agree with Chris. I don't believe it was, many of us didn't believe it was money well spent between New Britain and Hartford, a bus line. I too take a city bus to Hartford to go to work. There are probably between 6 and 10 people on that city bus every day. I would not drive across town to get on a faster bus when I could take a city bus. But like Chris said, we have to develop that area around those two stations. So if people do get on and get off, we can utilize those 2 transportation centers as much as possible in Elmwood. Elmwood happens to be one of the areas of town that we're really developing a lot of between the new housing that was at the former Coleco building, the condos called Quaker Green. Democrats actually supported the Goodwin, which is brand new housing across from a brand new Stop and Shop and a whole brand new center. Elmwood is really cooking, and we're looking forward to more development around those 2 transportation centers in Elmwood.
Okay. You brought up the housing situation in Elmwood, and I wanted to ask, what West Hartford can do to provide affordable and available housing for people of all ages and incomes.
I think the West Hartford Housing Authority has been very helpful in providing senior housing. The plant, the old plant junior high school, that is a wonderful, wonderful place to live and provides wonderful housing. What we haven't done is enough young people housing. Here we have young people graduating from college laden with debt and starting out on salaries that are lower, and they can't get into homes, and they want to have options. So this was this mixed income kind of model is a great model, and they have said that there is a very successful place to be. So I'm excited about that opportunity, and I think partnering with the West Hartford Housing Authority where possible is a wonderful opportunity.
You want to jump in on affordable and available housing?
Sure, I'll jump in. It's an interesting conundrum. You know, we're talking about, you know, finding affordable housing for students to come into our area. And at the same time, as we go door to door, we're talking to people that say it's too expensive to live in town because the taxes are too high, and they're either moving out of town into neighboring communities or are moving out of the state altogether. So, you know, on one end of the spectrum, we're trying to, you know, create affordable housing for young people and others that we want to be part of our community, but at the same time, to the empty nesters and the seniors, it seems like we're kicking them out the back door at the same time. So it's a little confusing to me. I'd also like to pick up on something that Harry mentioned earlier about the Goodwin project. As far as, you know, affordable housing, it's a 47, I think, apartment unit complex down in Elmwood, and Harry mentioned how the Democrats supported that project. It was actually, there was a lot of debate around that project and the location of it, and hundreds of, you know, local residents down in the Elmwood area were opposed to it, and I think a number of council members, you know, refused to approve the project, including the two Republicans that are on the council. And so it was an instance where, yes, we brought in some affordable housing, but we brought it into an area where, you know, my understanding is it was too dense, too large for the area, created potential traffic issues, and wasn't what the neighborhood wanted to go into that space. So I think when we talk about affordable housing, I think it's very important that we, you know, listen to, you know, the people that live in that neighborhood as to whether that's the proper location for that type of housing.
You look like you'd like to.
Well, actually, we have zoning rules and regulations, and the amount of neighbors that did come out did not meet the numbers of neighbors that were required for a supermajority to pass it. A supermajority did pass it anyways. The property actually went up on dilapidated former, it was like a motor shop, or a shop where you would bring your lawnmowers to be repaired. And like Blueback Square, a dilapidated area in town is being replaced by some housing. And in that neighborhood, there are other apartments that are actually bigger, more dense, and this will create more affordable housing, newer housing, and some competition within Elmwood, and some people to use a lot of the growth that has happened in Elmwood.
And a tax base as well.
Didn't Joe Varengia come out against this?
Yes, and Joe
Yes.
lives right behind it.
And how does he feel about the town council
you
not
know,
working with him
Actually,
on this
Joe was
project?
there when we did
He was very supportive when the project was approved.
But he was the one that organized the 500 local residents within that local footprint to oppose the project.
Yeah.
But then, days later, he was very much in support of the project.
What
Well,
would
actually-
be your belief on why he changed and swung towards supporting the project?
I'm not talking for Joe.
I
It's his own.
I can't speak for Joe either, but it was passed, it was going to happen.
So there was no backdoor deals?
Actually, I would say that there was no backdoor deal, because if Joe could have had a backdoor deal, he would have shoved it through and had it not happen, but it actually did happen.
All right. We're going to move on and talk a little bit about weather, because we're approaching the middle of the fall right now, and we can all remember not too fondly what's happened the last couple of falls. And I'm wondering if you think that we're ready for the next weather event that we are sure to happen to us sometime soon. You want to kick it off?
What I've seen is that, talking about services that aren't up to par, is that I've seen that our snow plowing is now no better than our neighbors in Hartford. And that's a major concern to me because obviously with all the construction and the way that the Democrats have allowed our roads to deteriorate, snow plow removal is very important. It's a public safety hazard if not done well. And I'd like to know from the council members why that particular area of the service has declined, in my opinion.
Well, I'm happy to start. I don't have much time left, though, here. You're going to have to finish for me.
Okay.
We actually have, West Hartford, we got so much feedback about how better our roads were in this storm. We got calls from all over the state about areas that were, this area was one of the best conditions in the state of Connecticut. So I don't know where you're getting your information, but I will say
I'm
that...
getting my information
Well,
because
let
I
me-
live in the
let me
town and
finish.
I can
So-
see
well,
myself.
You know what,
No one
we're-
plowed
we're
for
good.
that October
Okay.
storm, and no one came out for the 30 inches that we got last January.
Not true at all. And I will
They
tell you,
stopped
we got
plowing.
reviews. Okay.
They stopped plowing.
That was a strategy to do it in an efficient way and make sure that people could get out when they needed to get out. I live on a street with a number of doctors. Everybody got out when they needed to get out. I will say we
You're a
pre-treat our streets.
councilwoman. I'm sure they plowed your street first.
Actually, her street looks like crap, and it's looked like crap for
You know
about
what?
2
Is
years.
it the
because-
paving that looks like crap?
And her street is on a list to get repaired.
And it has been for 8 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you're getting your information. We do not get any treatment. If you want
I'm
to get on the
speaking as a
council
resident of
because you
West
want
Hartford, and
preference,
I've
you're not
seen
gonna
it
get
myself.
You need
It's
to start
firsthand.
speaking as a candidate in West Hartford who can bring something to the table other than arguments. The town is actually well
you're in
plowed,
power. I
better
wanna
than the city
know
of Hartford,
what-
and we're doing a
why
fantastic
services,
job.
especially
And our
snow
public
plowing
works
Let's talk one
department,
person at a time.
our
has-
public works
has
department
declined.
has kept its
I can
budget
see
in a
it.
great place.
I can see it.
And the streets are done really well,
I
and
can
we've
see
been
the
brought back to
decline
service wonderfully.
in the plowing. That's a service.
Let's talk a little bit about energy. Do we feel that our energy grid will be able to support us if we happen to lose power again this fall or winter? What do you think, Chris?
Well, let's tie the two topics together.
Okay.
I think the town does a nice job with the services. I don't have a complaint in that regard. My road gets plowed when the storms come. The town's out there cleaning up, and I think they do a nice job. With regard to the energy grid, I'm going to have to get a generator as protection for that insurance. My wife always tells me we need one during the power outage, but once the power comes back on, I forget about it. And so the next time the power goes out, she yells at me for not having a generator. So I think I will do that. I think there's been a real effort made to cut down limbs that hang over power lines on some of the streets in town. I think there's still more that could be done in that regard to protect against possible power outages. I like to think that we've had enough power outages to last us a couple decades, so hopefully it's good going forward.
All right, anyone
Mhm,
else want
Chris?
to chime in about energy? Okay, we'll move on. Let's talk a little bit about the election coming up on November 5th. And last year when we had our election, there were a few problems reported with some long lines and so forth. And I'm wondering if there are any ideas to improve the process for future elections, this one and then moving forward.
Well, I think we've already addressed the problems. I think the problems that you're referring to at the last election, a decision was made to basically split up the streets. We had consolidated a number of the voting districts, and I think the decision was made to take kind of a phone book approach to split the deck, and without taking into consideration how many people lived, on, the A through whatever end, and then end to the end of the alphabet. And so there was a lopsided number of people. So in my voting district at Brayburn, I was able to walk in and vote rather quickly, but there was a 2-hour line for the other half of the alphabet. And I know that there were issues with Denise Merrill, I believe, trying to get approval to be able to split that book into more parts to get the people through the process. My understanding is those issues have been addressed, and hopefully, at least for all the good Republicans that come out and vote on the 5th, they're not going to have any trouble casting their vote.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts to share about the process for elections this year?
Well, we agree that the lines were too long. It was not a great flow of people, whether there were two active voters on one side and one place and others, I don't know. There were definitely problems with the splitting of the streets, but those problems were, there was an immediate meeting after that, and the problems were resolved. So we expect a much better voting experience.
All right.
And I think it was a good idea to consolidate the number of polling places from 20 down to 9, just because people are much more mobile and can get to the polls a lot easier, and it reduces expenses for the town.
And Ted?
It's funny because when I'm out there going door to door, a lot of people, that's one of the things they're talking about, is that the fact that it's much more difficult to vote nowadays. And with West Hartford having one of the highest turnout rates for voters, I thought it was ironic that they would cut it down for polling places. And I've always wondered if some of the districts that were affected more were Republican.
Do you want to rebut that?
No.
Okay.
One last item I'll
Sure.
mention, Deb, keeping in mind the time that I have left. I think this year will be the first year that we have same-day voter registration, which is going to present a whole new host of issues and may cause a lot of problems. It'll just be a different set of problems than we had last year.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about, we have a little bit of time left, and many of you have mentioned trying to attract new businesses to town, whether we've been talking about that in combination with housing or with the busway. And I'm wondering if you have any specific ideas that would attract businesses to open up in West Hartford. Let's go to Ted.
I think that keeping taxes in check, creating an environment where we're not nickeled and dimed with fees at town hall. Speaking as a small business owner, I've owned 2 companies in the town of West Hartford. Once as a contractor and once as a consultant, and I could see the difference between a 20-year span of how much regulation has taken place, and obviously taxes are a major issue. I think that we have to create an environment where businesses want to come here and grow because they have the support of the town hall.
And how can we do that?
Like I said, maintaining lower taxes and not nickel and diming every entrepreneur that comes along through fees.
And Shari, you wanted to jump on those?
Yeah, I think there's a unique opportunity with Jackson Lab in the biomedical area. My husband's a patent attorney, and he sees new businesses coming into the area all the time. I actually am attending a business summit in Israel in the middle of December, and I hope that we are bringing back some partners from Israel in the high-tech area to come to West Hartford. We have a strong connection with Israel, West Hartford in particular, and I'm really bullish that we'll have some opportunity for some high-tech growth in the next 5 to 10 years.
We have a very attractive town, and incredible companies come here. Companies that you don't find in other parts of the state, but you find them in Boston and New York, like Cheesecake Factory, like Crate and Barrel. And at the same time, you've got companies or small firms like Fow's who have been here forever who can still be here. The commercial real estate around town is very well leased out. Blueback Square was recently sold, and it wasn't sold to some mom and pop organization. It was sold to Starwood. Starwood is one of the biggest developers in the world. We are a first-class town. People want to be here, and business wants to be in West Hartford.
And we have a new boutique hotel coming too.
What would be your number one priority if you were elected to the town council, or re-elected, for those of you who are incumbent? Who wants to go first?
I think our priority is what we've already discussed with respect to the unfunded liabilities. I think we have to address the $300 million that's outstanding. I understand Harry's position about 68 or so % are for current retirees. I think more can be done under the existing contracts. I think the existing contracts have to be brought more in line with the private sector. I think those contracts are too rich, and that the employees need, in part, need to contribute more for those benefits because it's simply unsustainable if we keep them as is to be able to pay for them into the future.
All right. And Ted? What would be your number one priority?
Well, I think that it's fiscal, because I'm really concerned over the pension liabilities, as Chris mentioned. And I think that we really need to negotiate tougher and with the taxpayer in mind when it comes to the union contracts.
All right. Harry?
Well, I don't know how much more tougher you get than by going to arbitration with one of your largest unions, the $10 million piece of the budget. We are doing that. As I said, we are addressing the pension. Moody's says that we're addressing the pension. They say that we're stable. There's no secret what's been successful in West Hartford. Our schools are the basis of everything. Our housing market and people wanting to live here is based on bringing their families and educating their children. The second most important thing is making sure that we have a safe community, and that's both police and fire, and that we have great services. We have them for seniors in multiple senior centers. We have them in fantastic libraries. And at the same time, our housing market is tight. People want to live here. The values have stayed the same. During the crisis, we held our values more than our neighbors. We're in great shape as long as we continue on the path and have the successes that we've had for the last 10 years.
So what would be your number one priority if you were reelected to the town council?
My number one priority is to still make sure that the schools are funded and the town is safe.
Okay. And Shari?
Mine is preservation of the quality of the unique and enviable quality of life that we have in West Hartford, and that is education, safety, and the services that we offer our residents, seniors, and recreational services that I think our town really thrives on. We have an incredible town with a ton of volunteers who make us richer every day. We are a special, diverse, unique community, and I want to preserve all of that and keep us to one of the top-ranked communities in the country.
All right. With a little bit of time left, I'm going to ask you what you think makes you uniquely qualified to be on town council. But you've got to be speedy about it. So who wants to go first? Let's go to Ted.
As a lifelong resident, I've seen the good times and the bad. I bought my first house here in 1994, and we've been buying houses and fixing them up. I've been doing that with my wife. I've seen a lot. I'm educated here in West Hartford, both high school, and I graduated from the branch in the University of Hartford in West Hartford. My grandfather was mayor of West Hartford back in the 50s, so public service kind of runs in my family. And I'm really looking forward to giving back to the community and serving on the board. And I think I can do that based on my history here in the town.
Great. You want to go next?
Sure. As an attorney, I'm called upon to review and negotiate contracts, to communicate effectively, to advocate for my clients. It's these skills and knowledge and background that I think would make me an effective town council member. I'll consider and weigh all of the voices of the residents in town and make decisions in the best interest of the town. I think the council is a forum where people can bring those issues and different viewpoints, and I think the council would work most effectively with differing viewpoints from different parties on the council.
Thank you. And let's go on down the line.
Okay.
What makes you uniquely qualified?
Well, I've been deputy mayor. I've been on the council for 7 years and then 2 years as deputy mayor, and I think that my record does speak for itself. I think we are an extremely desirable community and have really navigated our way through some very, very difficult times. Natural disasters, global financial crisis. And I have elderly parents in town, 4 children I've raised, and I've seen a lot also. Business owners, my husband's he started as a small business owner, now he's kind of a medium-sized business owner. We own property, 2-family and single-family, and I truly listen and care, and I govern with civility, and I think that's a really important thing, to reach across the aisle and really be respectful of everyone.
All right, and Harry.
I think commitment and experience. I've been doing this for 10 years, 8 years on the Board of Education, and 2 years on the town council. Shari and I are both financial professionals. We know the budget inside and out. I'm proud to sit on finance and budget that Shari chairs. We are very connected to the community, and we do work well across the aisle. In fact, when I was on the school board, I was actually nominated to leadership positions by Republicans. I work with Republicans every day. I was on the phone with them twice today.
All right, so Now we're going to go on to our closing statements, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order of closing statements was determined by lottery. And first, we're going to kick it off with Chris.
Thank you, Deb. Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and to West Hartford Community Television. And thank you to my fellow candidates for participating in the debate tonight. All the candidates that are running because they love the town. We love living in West Hartford, and we want what's best for the town. And we think it's a great place to raise our families, and we want it to continue to be. I decided to run for town council because I'm concerned about the fiscal issues facing our town and the impact that those issues will likely have upon our ability to maintain the quality of life that we currently enjoy. As many people know, and as we've discussed quite a bit tonight, we face some long-term financial challenges in town, not only unfunded pension obligations, healthcare expenses, other long-term debt obligations that we're going to have to pay over the years. And I think that that's going to put a lot of pressure upon our budget and our tax base to be able to achieve and maintain the quality of life that we want here in this town. Being a town councilor is a serious and important undertaking. We should demand fiscal responsibility and accountability from our town government. As a town councilor, I promise to do that for the people of West Hartford, and I look for their vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Ted.
I would like to say that I agree with what Chris said about this being a diverse community and that it's a special community. And one of the reasons it is because of our schools, of our civic organizations, and our community programs. And I'd like to see that continued. And I think that if we maintain West Hartford's affordability, we will continue to watch West Hartford grow. And that's important. Right now, property values have slipped a little bit. Whether that's national or just a regional thing, I'm not sure. But I'm concerned that high taxes will hamper the growth and also the housing market. Serving on the board would be a dream of mine. On the council would be a dream of mine. And I look forward to serving the people of West Hartford if they give me the chance. So please vote for me, Ted Pease, on November 5th. Thank you.
Okay, and now Shari Cantor.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this debate and for volunteering your time, WHC-TV for airing this program, and of course our viewers for watching and becoming informed citizens and voters. It's the best way to make a decision. I also want to share my appreciation for all of our elected and non-elected officials that serve our town. Service on the council is a big commitment, and we commend all who are willing to serve. We are a town enriched by so many volunteers, as I mentioned before, and they have my gratitude for all that they do. It has been my privilege and honor to serve my hometown. I have been on the council for 9 years. During this time, we have experienced the significant development in all town centers from Blueback Square to Bishop's Corner, Elmwood, Park Road. This reinvestment all over town demonstrates the commitment and faith that West Hartford is a place that people want to stay. We have retained strong property values during incredibly volatile real estate markets. Our schools have been high achieving and successful, and our community remains a safe place to live. This does not happen by chance. This is a record of excellent town management, elected leaders that have navigated their way through while enduring historically difficult financial conditions and several natural disasters. These have not been easy times, and I am proud of the record of where West Hartford is today. Budgets, like municipalities, are not a snapshot in time. They reflect our priorities and our goals, and we remain committed to West Hartford's primary goals in education, safety, and quality of services. We had our AAA bond rating reaffirmed by Moody's and Standard & Poor and upgraded to a stable outlook. Only a small percentage of communities achieve this. I'm proud of our results. West Hartford is unique, diverse, welcoming, and vibrant. I'm so lucky to have had the opportunity to serve with wonderful people like Harry, Deputy Mayor Scott Slifka, and I will do my best to make West Hartford one of the best communities in the country for the next decade. Please vote row B on November 5th. Thanks.
And our final candidate, Harry Captin.
I too would like to thank the League for putting on this debate this evening. Thank the timers. Thank you, Deb, for officiating, and WHC-TV for presenting it to the public, and of course the public for watching. We live in a dynamic, wonderful community. We are all incredibly lucky to live here. You have been led with a team who, through financial crisis after financial crisis, through the Dow Jones opening 10 years ago at an amount that it didn't reach again until 10 years later, to go through a time where everything is developing still in Bishop's Corner, in Park Road, in Elmwood, and in the center. We are hot and we are on top. Family Circle says that West Hartford is one of America's 10 best towns for families. We have 2 high schools. It is incredible that 2 high schools can be at the top of the charts for the Washington Post as national top high schools, as well as U.S. News and World Report, having Cantor and Hall in the 10 top public high schools in Connecticut. Our students are prepared, our students are graduating, they're getting into good schools, they're starting careers, and they're doing wonderfully. Our seniors also have great opportunities in our town. Hartford Magazine says that we're the best for families and seniors. We're one of the most affluent towns in the area, one of the most educated towns in the area, one of the best overall towns in the area. Let's remember that we've gone through tough times, we've done extremely well. And as the times get better, you want this same team who got you through the hard times to be there to get you through the good times, because we're going to be even better than before. So on Tuesday, November 5th, I hope you come out and vote for me, Harry Captin, Shari Cantor, the entire Democratic team on row B. I thank you for your support.
And thank you to all of the candidates for participating in this exchange of ideas this evening to help educate the residents of our town. And thank you to WHC-TV, to the League Timers, and to all of you for watching and becoming a more informed citizenry. Don't forget to vote on November 5th. Thank you and good night.